it's okay to take breaks, guys. Let your mind refresh, let your whole thinking process refresh, and come back later. So treat yourself as if you're your own boss. To take yourself a break, because we all need a break, because we all work hard.
Welcome back to the Wax Quill Podcast. Woohoo!
I'm very, maybe too much, and I'll admit that. I'm very, okay, no, get it done. You have to get that chapter written today. If it's horrible, that's fine. Just get it done. So this is good for me to see this other perspective. Um, I usually like to give myself a time limit and say, okay, I need this book written in 3 months because I have two babies, so I don't have a lot of time. I have about half an hour a day when I can be writing. So I have to be very consistent to meet that 3 month goal.
Yeah.
Do you have a goal for when you want a book to be finished, or do you go with the flow and at the pace of of the book?
I do, in fact, well, now I do. Now I do. Now I give myself deadlines. I give myself deadlines because I am treating myself as if I'm like a trap publisher. If like that makes sense. Like I treat myself as if I'm my own agent or publisher. Like I give myself deadlines to like a certain like a reasonable time, reasonable, time frame, because I'm not gonna say, okay, I need to write this book in like a month or a week. That's for me, that's like I can't do that. Like I can't.
Mhm.
Whoever does that, writer does that, you guys are great because I cannot do that. But like for my novel I'm writing right now, my first novel, I gave myself because I began writing back in February of like the end of February, and I have my deadline to write until June. So like 4 months of writing that story. Cause it really helps me to become um responsible and
Yeah.
consistent and like organized. Cause like if I just writing for a flow, then I'm like, okay, I write it later. I write it later, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna get then it's not gonna get done. It's not gonna get done. And I feel like if I give myself a deadline, it's like, okay, this is due this day. I need to like, yeah, it's not as like say it's far away, but it's still coming up. And
Mhm.
I need to like be of my own game right now. I need to like be what's the word, like I need to not slack off, not slack off a lot, knowing that okay, it just till June, but I still need to work as much as I can, And that's why I give myself like I write during the weekdays, and then I give myself my times off during the weekends so that I can like refresh my mind, do something else. Then that's when Monday starts. Cool, right again, you know. So because I mean I do have a lot of time on my hands, but I still do want to write as much as I can to like not like slack off or whatever everything like
Yeah.
that. So I feel like it's always a good thing to give yourself a deadline, everything.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
um and I mean whoever goes with the flow, that's good too. I mean that's good too. If that's what how you work, if you feel like pressure to like, okay, I kind of feel pressure to do this, do that. Then that's okay, go through the flow. Because again, everybody's different, and that's fine.
How many hours per day on average do you sit down to write?
I said like an hour or two, like an hour or two. Like because this is where the writer's block comes in. Where like if I'm writing for too long, then I don't say I get bored, but it's more like okay, I need to like because I don't like to sit in the same spot for like hours and upon hours, because I feel like okay, I'm kind of getting like strained or just kind of tired a little bit. So I tend to give myself like an hour or two a day to write. Or if there's a day where like I'm just feeling it, I'm just in a really great mood to write all day, then I give myself like a 3 hour, 5 hour sit down day to just write whatever I can.
How do you write? Do you write by hand on the computer? Do you dictate?
I write on my computer. On my computer. I do.
Do you ever struggle with, and maybe this is more of a beginner's problem. You tell me what you think. Do you ever struggle with writing a scene or a paragraph and you're like, "Oh, that was awful." And you delete it and you
Oh no, I
rewrite
do
it?
it all the time. I do it all the time.
Okay.
Like I do it all the time. If there's So this is why I say like I really think about writing my
Mhm.
first draft as much as possible. Because if I don't like the scene, I'm not gonna say no, it's fine. No, like if I like it, delete it and write it again. Write it in the way I say, you know. Oh, and also, I just figured out. Okay. Also, a great way to handle writer's block if like if like that stuff happens, whatever. I remember when I was writing a scene in my new novel, and I was stuck for like a minute or two, like, what the heck is going on? I can't think about what's going past this. Like I know how the scene goes, but I just can't move forward. It's weird. So what I did was I went back of the pages. I went to read the early I went what it was where like I went back to read the first few pages of the first page, whatever. Cause I was like on page 4. So I was like, okay, what the heck's going on? So I went to page 1 and read the whole thing to see how this sounds. So what I did was I went and changed like I changed around certain words in the previous pages
Mhm.
and just like reword certain stuff. And that helped me like out of that, like, man, you know. So it's always good to like go back and read what you wrote and to
Mhm.
see what can you change to help your story flow better, the writing scene. Because you don't know, like it could be because the scene that you wrote in the previous isn't as good flow and pace as you wanted. So like you should read what you do. And back to your question, I if there's a paragraph that's like, man, this sounds kind of it's just ill. I'm like, okay, let me delete this paragraph and see how can I word it in a great way, you know? So I do have that a lot. Like everything that I write, like this, if a paragraph's not good, I'm not going to keep it because that's how I feel like, okay, you know.
How have you used, well, okay, first off, before we started recording, you told me about complex stories and complex characters. Can you tell us about those again? Because I really liked that.
Okay. So what I really enjoy with telling, because I want to tell what I want to go into this whole like this industry of writing, author, everything. I want to tell a story that a reader could make you think, make you like feel some type of way, feel like, man, this story is out of this world, or this story is insane. Like a complex storytelling, a complex narrative with a character go through such of a like a trying to balance things out, or like a race against time, like a suspenseful theme of the character, how this certain aspect of the story changes them. Like for instance, like in the beginning, like for a character that's like have a good life, perfect life, or this certain thing happen, which make them change themselves, they lose themselves, and they feel like their purpose has gone. They're trying to find a way with this aspect of this certain thing, conflict that happens in the story, and it changed them in the way where like they can't really see how they used to be in the previous first pages of the first chapter. And with the story, I want, again, I'm very character driven. So it's more of a with a character on how they react with the conflicts of the book, everything. And for instance, with my first book, Semi Reborn, with a character, my main character, like he goes through such of a like a tremendous arc of trying to find his purpose in his world, trying to find his purpose in how he walks on this earth with such a weight on on his shoulders.
Mhm.
And it's more of a like where they trying to where my character trying to balance out from his past and trying to figure out how could he break the
Break the
tie,
cycle.
break the knot, or like untie the knot, whatever, you know, that sort of stuff. And it's really where I want my readers to really think hard, to really have a unique experience while reading my book. When you turn that page, when you turn the last page, you close a book, I want my reader to be like, wow. I want that. I want someone to do that, like, wow, that was something. I want that to happen. Because I feel like if that happens, then I did my job right.
And has there been a time you've been writing for a long time? So has there been a time in your life that was really difficult and you turned to writing to get through it? Or has there been a time when you were really struggling with writing and you weren't sure if you wanted to continue either being a writer, um, but something changed? Either of those?
I always knew that I wanted to become a writer. Like there was no deed about it. I feel like I was meant to put on this earth to become a writer, to tell a unique, complex story that people could read and could just change their ways into the narrative, to make that reality something just like something like experience. And I love writing. I feel like writing really makes me happy. I feel like it's like it's like my therapy. It's like I escape my reality to go to this reality, to just have fun with it and just to like do enjoy it while I can. Then I come back. Because honestly though, my characters, I'm not gonna say like which, but like my characters really helps me to become a better person.
Pause. Guess what? I have a free ebook just for you. Go to waxquillpodcast.com and click free ebook. It's all about how to get your book written, how to set realistic SMART goals for specifically writing a book. Just for you. Go click it.
Because I feel like I want to write my characters in a way where I see myself in, or I see, or how I view the world, how I view certain stuff in the world. Like when you read my stories, when you read my thing with them, like it's morely about how I view certain aspects of the world in my eyes. Because I feel like every author is more of a subjective writing storytelling, is where how they perceive the how they live in their world, or they how they live in the earth worldly world, and I think that's something that's why like fantasy is such a like such a cool thing, because like you can create your own reality, your own world, how you want. And I think that's a cool thing, a great thing. Then like that what makes the reader, they're having a hard time, they're struggling with certain stuff in their life, they could read and they could escape and to jump into this reality, and they could have certain stuff that happens in the book could really change your life in a better way. And with me, how I want to write my books, I want my reader to experience a very unique experience to help them out, or how to make them rethink how the world is really is everything.
Love it. Okay, before we recorded, you asked me a question about why I haven't edited or why I haven't published any books yet.
Oh no, I asked like I asked what for your first novel or your first novella or book,
Mhm.
like do you have a story in mind?
Ah, okay. So I want to answer this because I haven't found a good way to talk about it yet. So tell me what you think about this. I have a very mathematical and logical mind. So I keep thinking, oh, if I'm going to be a published author, then I need to have books coming out regularly, right? So it makes sense for me to have like a schedule and to have a series of, not necessarily a series, but of a variety of books. I need to have the first draft written for several books, and then I can work on so that I can give them time to kind of sit, so that I'm not focused on them all the time. If I have um, like 7 books in their first draft already finished, then I can go through and write the second draft for 6 of those. And then I can write another first draft and then go through and write the second draft for the 6th book and write the third draft for the other 6 or for the other 5, and then kind of have a little staggered
Staggered.
completion date. That way they all have time to sit, and I become better each time before I even go back to that book. So that's
Mm.
been my mindset so far, and I have, I think, 5 books that I have the first draft done. But I'm terrified to go back and start editing because I feel like I'm not ready. And so I
Yeah.
just keep writing first drafts. So, what are your
My
thoughts on that?
okay, so is very funny because that was my mindset before. Like it was where I felt like I should work on so many books in one time.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you, that was the most stressful time of my life. That was the most stressful time because it's like it's not like it wasn't like it was a burden, but it was like a lot of work on yourself. And me personally, I see it as where work on one thing at a time because this story is not going anywhere. It's going to be right here, or a story that you have in mind is not going to go anywhere. It's not going anywhere at all. And if that story keeps popping in your head, then that story is a good story that you want to write. And I would say to if you write a first draft, write that, work on that story mainly. Make that your first priority, and have your other stories leave it on the side on hold until this one is done. And that's when you finish, I say when you finish um writing it and you go through the process of editing, that's when you could like, okay, now this editing, let me work on writing or work on developing my next story. And you can start on that and write that while you're editing this one. And and for my advice for you that for fear and scared to go back to your first rabbit thing, I say just do it. Just don't. I say just really edit them because you never know. Good, you never know these stories. I see it. I see it as this. If a writer is scared of releasing this type of story or go work on this story because of fear of not wanting or not fearing of anybody not reading it. Here's an example. Let's say this. You are a writer and you have, let me make it even, 10 people in a room. Each one have a copy of your book. They'll read it. Now let's say this. Only 9 of these people didn't like it. They thought it was not good in opinion. But that one person come to you, start crying. They said, your story changed my life. This story changed how I think. And I love it so much. That right there holds more weight than the others. I feel like unless your story impacts at least one person or a few people rather than a bunch of crowds, then that's your job is done right. Because and I'm still trying to deal with the fact that not everyone's gonna like my stories. I'm still trying to work on that. And I know, but I'm just trying to accept that morally because again I'm flawed. Of course I want my story to be great for everybody, but I know that it's not going to be good for everybody. But I know at least one person in this world is going to enjoy my story, and one person is going to feel impactful. So when that person come to you, tears in their eyes, and they tell you that this story changed my life, it changed how I view things, and you never know. Your stories right now that's a first draft, you never know. Once that story comes out, that story could really impact someone and someone remotely. You never know. But it's still waiting on that time. So while it's still in the vault, while it's still in the waiting process, that time that's you're basically just like holding yourself in of something. And I'm not gonna assume anything, but I just like just I say like just do it. Don't be scared of releasing it or scared of the worst, scared of the thought of like this story is not, it's not good enough for someone to read. You never know. Like I said, if it impacts two people out of eight, that holds more weight
Mhm.
because at least that person right there made you feel great. Yeah, it sucks that those people didn't like it, but hey, I made someone happy when we read books, so that's telling something.
That's
So
mhm.
yeah, so yeah, don't be scared. Do it, write it, work on it, because you never know. That one story could really change your life and change someone else's.
Mhm. Okay. Um, one more question, unless I think of more while we're
Okay.
asking those. I see on your shirt it says God's plan.
Oh,
Does I'm taking that to assume that you are religious. How does religion play into your writing process?
um, well, I'm not really really religious. Most of them, like mostly I'm not really religious, but I do believe in God. I do, read my Bible all the time, everything. And I say religion does play a big part of my stories, where is mainly about how it impacts, like with the worldly stuff in this certain aspect of the world and the godly stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm more focused on the worldly because it's like more of a, like, the characters go walk on this earth, going through these challenges, and they question themselves, and, like, they question themselves about how God makes certain choices in their lives, or how, certain stuff happens in God's plan, whatever. And it's funny because in my recent novella, I went to re-edits and I added a certain scene in the ending that talks about that topic, about, hey, why did God do this, did that, and it's like a great little, like, conclusion for the story. So
Mhm.
no spoilers, but no
Okay.
spoilers.
Do you ever feel like guided with your stories? If you're ever stuck, do you feel inspiration, or does it?
I, of course, like, I feel like if the story doesn't inspire you to work on it more, then that story is not, it isn't, what's the point, you know? Because
Mhm.
I see it as where, if the story is not meaningful to you, if it doesn't impact you in a personal way, or it doesn't really, like, make you want to write more, then what's the point of writing it in the first place? Because if you're just writing it, just write it, then there's no, like, joy. There's no hunger for you, eager to this story to be out, because, like, it's me, like, whatever, just writing it just to just write whatever, no, like, if it's meaningful to you, if it's personal to you, personal, because for me personally, I'm not gonna spend months of writing something that is not important to me, or I
Mhm.
feel like someone needs to read this. So yeah, all my books I write, every book I write has meaningful, and it inspires me in a personal level.
Mhm. Thank you so much. I have learned so much from this, and I've been very inspired. So I really
Thank you.
appreciate you coming on.
Of course. Thank you.
Where can people find your books?
Okay. You can find my books on my website, jalentellisbooks.com. Is where you can find my works, everything, where books on Amazon, Barnes Noble, ebooks, Kindle, I have like three works so far in the thing, so it's not gonna be that hard to find it.
And then where can people follow you? Are you on Facebook or just Instagram?
I am on Instagram. My Instagram is Jalen Tellis official, and yeah, that's it. That's it.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. This has been incredible. I really appreciate
Sure.
it.
Thank you for
Thanks,
having me.
everybody.
Thank you so much for inviting me on, talked about it, talk about, writing, things like that. And I hope someone takes what I say and try to, like, you don't have to, whatever, but I hope someone, like, man, this is great. And I really appreciate it. And I'm very grateful and honored for you to invite me on this interview, because it's, like, great. It's great to talk about writing. It's great.
thank you, listeners, for being here. Make sure to subscribe and follow Jalen and follow me, Wax Quill Podcast. And we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.